Well, I'm actually going to have to split this into two videos because I bought too many books in the month of April for just the one. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris and today's video serves as part one of my April book haul. I haven't counted how many books I have purchased in the month of April. I just know that in ebooks and audiobooks alone, I'm up to 19. Which seems ridiculous because I have two piles of books sitting over in the corner there ready for the physical book haul later today. And I don't know, I'll count them and I'll give you an update in part two of this video. But today's video is just going to be the ebook and the audiobook book haul. Now I will preface this by saying I did not pay money for all of these. I did get some of these on deals with Kindle, or the author would advertise that they had some of their books coming out for a day where it didn't cost any money, but it was just to sort of help boost their numbers on Kindle or Kindle Unlimited, whatever they were using at the time. So I did jump in and download a few for free. And also with the audiobooks, a lot of these came from the Plus catalog, but I've downloaded them into my library this month as books that I'm interested in listening to. So don't fret, I haven't gone completely broke. I'm a little broke, but not completely broke because of books in the month of April. Jumping into the list, the first book that I got for free off Kindle was The Druid by Jeff Wheeler. This is the Dawning of Mirwood book number 1. Jeff Wheeler is an author that I'm interested in reading. He has a lot of books out there. I've downloaded an entire series. I think it's called the Harbinger series on Kindle, and that was sort of last year that I downloaded them. I haven't read them yet, and this is the first book in a new series. It says, Elian was born a wretched, a lonely foundling raised by the Aldermaston of Tintern Abbey. Then she is chosen to assist in establishing a new abbey of Mirwood, now the site of a castle in the swampy Bearden Muir. Elian's role is as knight servant to the Druid Mordaunt, the king's exiled advisor and prisoner. He's clever, dangerous, and invaluable to the Aldermaston. Mordaunt's priceless secret, the hiding place of an ancient tome that reveals the existence of other worlds and the magic between them. Mordaunt knows how potent its words are and how dangerous they could be in the wrong hands. Can Elian win him over? All she must do is gain Mordaunt's confidence and trust and persuade the Apposate to divulge his secret to her. But as she learns more from Mordaunt, Elian's loyalties begin to fray, and the risks are greater than she imagined. Despite betrayals, deceptions, and the deadly motivations of others, a girl from the flax fields is about to rise above her station. By exploring the potential of the power of an ancient spoken magic, Elian is coming into her own. Sounds like a coming of age, coming of magic story. Sounded pretty cool, got it for free, so I jumped in and I grabbed that one while it was available. The next two are horror novellas. The first one is You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. It says, each precious thing I show you in this book is a holy relic from the night we both perished. The night when I combed you from my hair and watered the moon with your blood. It is a techno body horror. The cover is actually they go on this side. The cover is absolutely stunning, if not horrifying, and I really liked Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. The second horror novella that I picked up was One Last Shindig by Mark Taus. I discovered Mark Taus off the Nerdy Narratives channel. I really love Nana, which is a geriatric horror, again, body horror. There was some sexually explicit scenes and some gross body horror with the elderly, so if you don't like that sort of thing, or like's probably not the right word, if you're not willing to read that sort of thing, maybe give these a miss, but this is another foray into some geriatric body horror, I believe. It says, the world as we know it is coming to an end, but this group of geriatrics on the One Last Shindig have no idea what's in store. As far as they're concerned, they're on a quick jaunt to see a cave full of glowworms, and then back to the hotel for apple pie and custard. So get the muscle spray ready and change into your big underpants, because you're going to need them. take your seat on this hilarious and terrifying coach tour into hell. That's one thing about Nana, is it was still quite humorous even though it was a horror novel, and I'm expecting the same from One Last Shindig, so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one sometime soon. I believe that's it for the horror ebooks, I think. Don't quote me on that, there's a lot of them. The next one I picked up is the Midlife Bounty Hunter. This is by Shannon Mayer. It is the 40 Proof series, book 1. This is a different take on fantasy. This is all about a woman who's just been divorced in her early 40s. She's living on her ex's cousin's couch and needs to go into the underworld, or the Shadowland I think it's called, to earn some money. It sounds like a hoot. It sounds like it's urban fantasy that really doesn't take itself too seriously, has a lot of fun, plays with some of the tropes, and also gives us a protagonist who isn't like in their late teens and early 20s. So, the blurb says, "One day I'm married, living in Seattle, and magic isn't real. The next, I'm divorced and living in the guest room of my ex's hotter-than-sins cousin's place in the savannah, and talking to an animated skeleton named Robert. I have to admit, Robert isn't my worst date. At 41, I didn't think I'd be starting over, but I'll be damned if my ex thinks I'm down and out because he pulled a fast one on me. When a job comes my way that offers me a chance to use my childhood training in the shadow world, I take it. I need money more than I care about my sanity. It's dangerous. I have to embrace the magic and dark of my past, and I need Advil to keep me going. But those who hold me back better sit up and take notice, because a new woman is in town and she's not about to be counted out by anyone, even if she groans when she rolls out of bed in the morning." It sounds like a really fun time. I've got the audiobook for this one. If I like it, there is a number of books in this series. I think I've seen Midlife Vampire Hunter, Midlife Fairy Hunter, Midlife... That's it. Those are the two that I can remember. I'm not sure how many there are. This may be a new guilty pleasure, I'm not sure, but I hope that it is great. The next two I picked up were purely cover buys. The first one is Ghosts of the Shattered Kingdoms by Wade Garrett. This is Where the Shadows Reign, book number 1. This cover is awesome. Now, whilst I hate the ocean, I'm apparently drawn to stories about the ocean, and there's a big pirate on the front of this cover, so I'm looking forward to whatever happens there. This says flintlock fantasy and industrial punk collide in this hard-hitting tale, perfect for fans of Brian McClellan's Powder Mage series and Dune. Read Dune, love Dune, have no idea about the Powder Mage series, but I own it, so we'll see if I enjoy this one. Next one is The Prince's Errand. This is Tales of the Amulet, book 1 by Dan and Robert Zangari. Now, this cover has the classic fantasy feel. It just looks like it's going to be epic. It looks like it's going to be some old school fantasy or a modern take on old school fantasy. I don't know, like I said, it was a cover buy. I know very little about it. The blurb says, several millennia ago, a war raged between the factions of dragonkind. With their world ravaged, the Chaldean Alliance forged the amulet of the draconic control and the tethering stone, and banished their foes to other realms, saving Kaldar from utter destruction. Fearing the power of the amulet, the survivors secreted it away. But now knowledge of the amulet has resurfaced, and in the wrong hands, war could erupt anew. Sounds like classic fantasy to me. So, well, it's long, which is why I went the ebook route. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I lied to you before. I do have one more horror ebook on here, and that is The Bird Eater by Anya Alborn. I did talk about this one already in my horror authors to read that aren't Stephen King, so I won't go on too much about it. But this is a horror book that I'm looking forward to getting to. My spooky season is the lineup for my spooky season is looking to be epic, so looking forward to jumping into this one as well. I had quite a few horror books. The next one that I had was Nightmare Tenant. This is by Richard Holiday. This one says, for years Chevron Tower was abandoned and left to rot as the world turned. It loomed in the skyline, a desolate, abhorred ruin, a forgotten relic of the past. That was how it should have stayed. But now, the tower has been resurrected and shown a renewed lease of life, ready for a new generation of families to move in. Everyone in the community is celebrating this achievement. Councillors, developers, residents all applaud the regeneration of this unloved eyesore, except for one member of the community, the one who still lives in the Chevron Tower, unknown to all, the one who never left. This, I like a haunted house, like a haunted hotel situation. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of fun. I don't know if it's going to do anything different for those type of stories, but having like a creepy tenant that never left and you've got a whole bunch of new people going into this building seems like a fun time for me. The next one I picked up was a dystopian sci-fi called Fractured, which by D.S. Mack. This is the Fracpocalypse, Book 1. It says, when an experiment for renewable energy fails catastrophically, reality is at risk. The world finds an unlikely hero afflicted with strange abilities. Drake Osborne is able to uncontrollably traverse time. The world depends on him learning to control his gift, but can he do it in time, or will reality fracture? I do really like dystopian books, and adding in some sci-fi elements in there, like a traveller aspect, sounds pretty cool to me. The next one I picked up was The Power of Conviction. This is by Katrin Russell, The Light of the Darkness, book number 1. Trained in the arts of the light, the priests tread a bloodied path through the scores of demons seeking to rid the world of their unholy presence. The fight against demonkind grows increasingly perilous, threatening the priesthood's very survival. Priestess Anya stands resolute in her conviction. Despite the dangers she must endure, her faith in the goddess and her divine supremacy remains steadfast. She intends to follow the commands of her high priest, no matter how gruesome. Then comes a day when all her beliefs are challenged. A fateful meeting with the elusive demon Samiel opens the doors to doubt. Anya begins to question the very foundation of the priesthood and the preachings of the goddess. Could they be wrong about demonkind? Is her purpose in life truly for naught? You guys know, if you've been here a while, I really like religious aspects in fantasy. This is what this promises to be with that description, and it was definitely the blurb that drew me in, and an author that I found on Instagram. So looking forward to getting to this one at some point, I'm not sure when. Now the next section of these books I bought 4 by author JDL Roselle. So both of them were, all books that I got from this author were free this month. I picked up 2 audio and 2 ebooks, and then we'll jump into the rest of the audiobooks. The first ones that I got was A Secret Cellar and The Whispers of Ruin. This is the Famine Cycle prequel and book number 1. I'm just going to read the blurb for book number 1, and this is a series that I believe is getting its 3rd book. It already has just come out, or it's coming out soon. It says, a traitor of secrets, a king's demise before his time, the dragon god threatening to consume the world. In a city divided by schemes and treachery, Irene the Finch is a penniless commoner scraping a living through trade in valuable secrets. Despite coming from a debt-ridden family, she has claimed a sliver of notoriety through her relentless ambition and ingenuity. But Ariane has always yearned for more. She wishes to be a verifier of truth, part of an ancient order that uncovers corruption at the highest echelons of society. She longs to bring justice to an unjust world. So when her nation's figurehead ruler dies under suspicious circumstances, Ariane seizes her opportunity. Her search for truth behind the ruler's death will bring her into conflict with outlaw sorcerers, underground societies, corrupt politicians, and far deadlier dangers. Can Ariane uncover the plot and stop the forces behind it, or will the price of victory be too high to pay? JDL Roselle is another author that I have been meaning to pick up, another self-pub author that I'm really interested in reading. Jumping into the audiobook section and sticking with JDL Roselle, I got books 1 and 2 of The Legends of Tal. This is a King's Bargain and a Queen's Command. I believe this is a completed 4-book series or quartet, so getting the first 2 on audio, I'm looking forward to jumping into these at some point too. Audiobooks is one of those things where I generally don't buy more credits on Audible. I just use the ones that I have and use the Plus catalogue. I also use Libby and BorrowBox. If you're in Australia and you have a library card, you have access to those services as well, and I generally don't need to spend too much more money, but finding things like this on the Plus catalogue is exciting because it means that I can add a backlog if I can't find something on the other free services. So it says, the legend of Tal Harrenfell is sung across Westreach, and with each telling the tales grow taller. But though he's declared a hero by his king, Tal has never claimed to be more than a man. After 3 decades of fighting warlocks, killing mythical beasts, and hunting enchanted treasure, Tal has had enough. Running from the deeds of his past, he retreats to his home village under a different name and meets an unlikely companion, Garen, a village boy who dreams of making a name for himself and seeing the world beyond their sleepy town. When Tal receives a mysterious visitor, both he and Garen find themselves thrown into a sojourn across the kingdom. Soon they become embroiled in the plots of monarchs, on the front lines of an ancient war, and at the mercy of a fabled sorcerer. Now Tal must live up to his legend, and Garen discover his own power to survive the forces pitted against them. That sounds like a good series. We've got conflicting interests and unlikely friendship. I like it. Moving on the audiobook section, I also bought the Heroic Age Trilogy. This is Rob J. Hayes' Mortal Techniques series, I think it's called. And it consists of Never Die, Pawn's Gambit, and The Spirit of Vengeance. So these are all standalone novels, but they're within the same world, I believe, as part of this box set. I don't want to know too much about them. I really love Rob J. Hayes after reading The War Eternal, and sidebar, I also picked up Along the Razor's Edge, which was on the Audible Plus catalogue. I've already read it, but I'm curious to see the narration for it. This is one of those books that, although I'm not a rereader, I would love to be able to go back and experience it again. So I'm wondering if I can experience in audio and then take something more from the written version, because technically I'm not reading it again, I'm listening to it. I don't know. It may annoy me. Don't ask me how my brain works. I'm not sure. I then picked up on the Plus catalogue the George Orwell collection. So this is 1984 and Animal Farm. These are dystopian novels, I believe, which have a lot of social commentary, which is still holding up today, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it. They were written in the late 40s or mid to late 40s and still holding up in conversations today. These were like assigned reading in high school, and my class just never got them, and then I never went back to read them, but I've always been interested. So I picked up the collection read by Stephen Fry, and I'll get to them at some point, but now I have them, so I have no excuse not to read them. The next two that I got, or the last two audiobooks that I got, are some horror novels. One that I've heard making the rounds is Fantasticland by Mike Brokoven. This was one that I put on my Amazon wishlist and just happened to be scrolling the Audible catalogue yesterday and it came up. So I was like, yes, I'll download that. It means I don't have to pay $35 for the book in Australia. The Australia tax man gets us all. This one says it is a modern take on Lord of the Flies meets Battle Royale that probes the consequences of a social civilization built online. Since the 1970s, Fantasticland has been a theme park where fun is guaranteed, but when a hurricane ravages the Florida coast and isolates the park, the employees find it anything but fun. 5 weeks later, the authorities who rescue the survivors encounter a scene of horror. Photos soon emerge online of heads on spikes outside of rides, and viscera and human bones littering the gift shops, breaking records for hits, views, likes, clicks, and shares. How could a group of survivors, mostly teenagers, commit such terrible acts? I've heard this. I've heard this book described as like Lord of the Flies meets Hunger Games, where you've got a group of kids just trying to survive, and I guess now that we're online, it's incorporating that aspect of our lives into this horror. I love horror in theme parks. I think it is so creepy, and it's one of my favorite horror settings ever. So I'm looking forward to giving this one a go. I don't listen to many horror books, to be honest. If you have recommendations of horror that I should be consuming via audio, please do let me know. Last one I picked up was Midnight Mass by Father Paul Wilson, or F. Paul Wilson. This is a book that was adapted to Netflix. I thought it was Stephen King. It's not. This is it's a scary vampire story. It says vampires have always lived in Eastern Europe, but with the fall of the Soviet Union, they began to spread across the continent, then the world, turning whole populations into vampires or human cattle. Having overrun India, the Far East, and the great cities of North and South America, the forces of night are now spreading into the countryside to consolidate their conquest. In a town on the New Jersey shore, the vampires have just arrived, along with their human henchmen and cowboys who round up human cattle for the overlords in return for the promise of an eternal life after. for an eternal life later. For the vampires wish only a few of their own kind to rule and feed. The rest of humanity are to be helpless herds, the source of the blood of life. Falsely accused of abuse, Father Dan is a drunk in a basement waiting for the end. His superior has betrayed the local Catholic congregation and become a vampire. Sister Carolyn has become a formidable killer of cowboys and vampires. Dan's niece has escaped from the conquest of New York and made her way south to find him. Brought together by Rabbi Zev Walpin, who is shaken by the vampire's fear of the cross and holy water, they plan their resistance. Against all odds, they discover that there just might be a way for humanity to really fight back, but first they'll have to kill the Vampire King of New York. It sounds creepy. I like a creepy vampire story. You don't get a whole lot of creepy vampire stories nowadays. They've been highly sexualized in my opinion, but I feel like we're finally coming back to like scary vampires, which will be cool, and I've never read this one, so looking forward to giving it a listen. That's it. That is the ebooks and the audiobook section of this book haul. Tune in tomorrow for the physical book haul, which has more books in it. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Like the content, give one of these. If you want to see more of it, then click subscribe at your will, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Ciao.